Murph is a great kid. She's really bright, but she's been having a little trouble lately. She brought this in to show the other students the section on the lunar landings.
Yeah, that's one of my old textbooks. She always loved the pictures.
It's an old federal textbook. We've replaced them with the corrected versions.
Corrected?
Explaining how the Apollo missions were fake to bankrupt the Soviet Union.
You don't believe we went to the moon?
I believe it was a brilliant piece of propaganda that the Soviets bankrupted themselves, pouring resources into rockets and other useless machines.
Useless machines?
And if we don't want a repeat of the excess and wastefulness of the 20th century, then we need to teach our kids about this planet, not tales of leaving it.
You know, one of those useless machines they used to make was called an MRI.
Welcome to episode 22 of the Conquest of Popcorn. I'm Pinko.
And I'm Bardo.
And today we are going to do a space movie.
More back to space.
Yes, we haven't done a space movie in a while.
Yeah. Sorry, you know, the 100 or so of you who've been anxiously waiting for a new episode. 100
is being generous.
I don't know.
I'm still pretty sure that like 90 of our listeners are just pooch.
I don't know. Maybe.
Sorry if I'm sniffing. I'm just very sniffy right now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I know it's been a couple weeks, but we're back.
We're back.
A good one. A
Once
director.
Again, it's my fault. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I work a lot.
But yeah, director I have lots of feelings about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have lots
There's
of feelings.
There's an actor I have lots of feelings about.
Yeah,
not
there's
good
that
feelings.
Too. But I don't know. I like this movie. But before we dig too deeply, how you been?
Tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing has been happening where I'm at work, and there's like a quiet moment, like where the kids are at lunch or something, or we're in between classes, and I'm standing there, and I just get really dizzy.
That's not good. Sounds wrong.
It's not great.
Well,
also, they have a new rule that we have to stand up the whole time while we're teaching, which sucks.
You can't teach sitting down. You could teach sitting down.
They don't want me to. They want me up and circulating, even though like a lot of times I only have like 1 or 2 kids.
Herd them like some sort of sheepdog.
Well, so the idea is that like if you're moving around, they can't be like getting away with something because you'll be near them. And I don't know. I know all the kids that are trying to get away with stuff at this point, so I just check on them.
Well, I'm sorry you have to stand the whole time. Sounds awful.
There's a lot of rules at this place.
Yeah. Maybe you've noticed, but we're in the quietest location we'll probably ever record.
Yeah, there's no sirens in the background.
No sirens.
No people yelling.
No people yelling.
It's because we're at this very nice house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody that my aunt works with, he's like a big, powerful, rich guy, I think of him. He probably doesn't think of himself that way, but I've always thought of him that way.
His house implies that.
He generously has me, well, he and his wife, they generously hire me to take care of their animals a lot.
Yeah, there's 3 very, very high energy dogs here, and Penny.
Penny's like, what?
Who does not get along with them. 2 of the dogs I get along great with. The other one really.
She usually doesn't have a problem with them.
Really hates me. Yeah, no, I don't know what that was. It was not good.
Yeah, there was like a little fight. Penny bit me.
Ooh.
She's never bit me before.
And they also have, we discovered the worst cookies. One of the only non-peanut butter oriented cookies that I've had that I couldn't eat. I had one bite of, I smelled it. You could smell whatever, I don't know. I'm not sure what they painted these cookies with, but
they taste like plywood.
Yeah, like balsa wood that they like put some
like the kind of plywood that's like treated.
Yeah, I don't know. It was, and I still taste it. This was like probably 25 minutes ago.
Yeah, I keep burping and it tastes like that.
I had one bite of it. I had a cigarette and a beer since then, and it's still just, it's just there. I don't know.
I don't know if they always taste like this or if this is like a bad batch.
It doesn't. It said oatmeal on it, and that is not what oatmeal tastes like.
No.
But the dogs are good.
The dogs are cute.
The dogs are cute. The two of the younger ones, they're fun because they like, when they play fetch, they have rules about it. Like they take off like fucking missiles after this ball, and they get it, and they pass the ball back and forth.
One of them always has to be the one to give it to you.
Yeah.
So if the other one gets the ball, he'll give it to his buddy.
Yeah.
Because he's like the little submissive doggy.
Yeah. He always, even if it's just like right, he's about to hand it to me, and then he's like, wait, no, and he gives it to the other.
Yeah. The other one is like the boss that always takes the credit.
Yeah. I don't know. It's very strange, but it's very cute. I'm very into it. It's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, like little rockets.
Yeah, they're weird little animals. They're cute.
Which brings us
Oh yeah,
to
speaking
today's
of rockets.
movies. Good transition point. I actually thought this up when I was outside throwing the balls.
Wow.
Thought I needed to talk about this so I can
Our
use
life
it as
is
a good transition.
really fascinating, and I'm glad our listeners get to hear about it.
Hell yeah. But
Look at Penny.
oh, she's looking at the little, what kind of bug is that?
I don't know. There's a bug and Penny's stalking it. It's so cute.
It's buzzing.
You're so cute. Whoa. You didn't want me to pet you. Busy.
Go get it. Climb the wall.
Anyway.
But yeah, rockets. Interstellar. The Christopher Nolan's second to last film, I think. He's released one since then. I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, this was 2014. He wrote it with his brother, Jonathan Nolan, who wrote, I think, the original script for it. Yeah, I have a lot of strong feelings about Christopher Nolan in general. I think, my overarching theory about him is his movies are all better if you treat the protagonist as if they're at least an ideological antagonist.
Okay.
Guy
I forgot
Pearce.
that this was your rule about this movie, about Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. Memento, about the man who can only form very short-term, or can't form short-term memories. The main character is like evil. He's an evil dude because he keeps rejecting his own solving of his mystery in order to keep solving the mystery and give his life meaning. The Batman movies. Batman is a fascist. What's that called? It's not called The Intrigue. It's called what's the magician movie he did?
Oh, The Prestige?
The Prestige, yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, about the
The guy who
cloning
just
suicide
kills
machine.
the birds in front of the little kid all the time.
And himself.
Yes.
He was killing. This is, I'm sorry, twist to The Prestige, spoiler alert.
He's
but
basically just doing the Star Trek thing.
Yeah. I don't remember Inception because I hated that movie.
It wasn't very good.
But I remember Leonardo DiCaprio being kind of an asshole in it. But I
Yeah.
don't remember if he was the star or if he was the main character.
There were a lot of main characters in the movie, which is one of the reasons it sucked.
Yeah, I just didn't care for it. But this one we have Matthew McConaughey, who came straight out of his success as a serious actor in True Detective. Which
Wait, is this his first like big movie? No, because he was in Contact.
No, he was in lots of stuff before this, but he was always just like a romantic comedy, like, you know, talking in a kind of southern drawl kind of voice, and woo the ladies just a little bit.
The priest in Contact.
Yeah.
Another space movie.
Yes, that's true.
That was ruined by Matthew McConaughey. Sorry, I really don't like Matthew McConaughey.
We should watch True Detective.
He just seems like such a douchebag.
He's just like a rich hippie.
Yeah, douchebag.
I know. Yeah, I don't trust hippies in general, but especially rich ones. But
yeah.
But yeah, he's that guy. He's just like, he doesn't really. I don't think he like showers a ton. Like, I think that's like a thing about him, not like a thing I'm just speculating. He like just like smokes a ton of pot and like is kind of filthy most of the time, and is, I think, generally
he probably
just like,
does yoga.
I'm sure he does lots of like desert yoga and hot yoga and stuff like that. And
yeah, he probably teaches yoga.
Spends a lot of time naked, I bet.
Did you ever see that went viral on Twitter kind of? It was this like yoga guy. I don't know when I say yoga. He was like a spiritual healer, but he did like sex healing, and you had to pay like $200 a session, and he wouldn't have sex with you the first several sessions. But basically, I thought,
what was his overlap with Barney? Wasn't there one?
Oh, he was the guy who played Barney. That's right.
It. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, the guy who played Barney was a master fucker.
Yeah, I feel like Matthew McConaughey is like a sleazier version of that guy.
But never had the prestige of playing Barney.
That guy's got a $200 dick. And this guy, Matthew McConaughey, was probably always just hoping to get laid and didn't even think that he could charge for it.
That's true. I mean,
actually, I think it was more than $200. I think it was like $500.
I don't know. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was I mean, if it's the reviews on the website were wild.
Yeah, everybody was like, he changed my whole life.
Yeah.
With his "This Dick Ain't Free."
Yeah.
I forget how that song goes, but I think it's a funny song.
Yeah. No, Barney had that good dick. And
yeah. That dinosaur dick.
Yeah. What's that line from Predator? Balls like a Tyrannosaurus. It's the late Governor Jesse the Body Ventura has this line about how you chewing tobacco gives you balls like a Tyrannosaurus or something like that.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, just like me.
Why? Because of the cancer, or?
No, it's just, I don't know. Just, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger like won't take any chewing tobacco from him, and he's like calling him a big baby. But yeah, whatever the case. Interstellar, again, Matthew McConaughey. He's just. I mean, we'll explore it further, but I think he's just like, he's a huge asshole through this whole movie. His whole way of looking at the world is generally fucking shitty. And this is, I would argue, we'll start from this premise that Interstellar, like a lot of Christopher Nolan's films, even though I think he explicitly tries to be as apolitical as he can in lots of them, they're all conservative films, pretty much. And I think this one particularly so, even if it does this thing where it tries to avoid it altogether, but it doesn't. It fails at that. But yeah, it starts with footage from what's his name, Ken Burns, right?
That documentary about the Dust Bowl.
Yeah, the Ken Burns Dust Bowl documentary with old folks talking about like what it was like to live through the Dust Bowl like in the 30s or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like I've seen that documentary before.
It's fucking long. It's good though. It's like 4 hours of really old people talking about growing up and like parsing the sand through their food and basically living a miserable life. But it starts with, it's like breakfast time or something.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take super detailed notes on this movie, so things will be out of order a little bit. But Matthew McConaughey's daughter, whose name is Murph.
Poor child.
Named after
Murphy's Law, which I get what that is wrong all the time in this movie, and it drives me bonkers. First of all, I really think that they're treating it in some cases like Murphy's Law is an actual law of physics. Which it is not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're actually treating it.
They just they cite it at one point while they're in space as if it's a real thing. But he says, so Murphy's Law is anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And he tells the little girl that it says that Murphy's Law is whatever will happen will happen. Like anything that can happen will happen, which is not what Murphy's Law is. And then later on they like are in space and he cites it as like, I mean, basically he's talking about like anything is possible in an infinite universe, which is true. That is like a theoretical thing, but that is not Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law is not a real law of physics. It's just a joke. Yeah. It's just something that old people say when you like drop your toast and it lands face down, butter side down, instead of, like, oh, well, of course it would land butter side down, so you can't even salvage the toast. Yeah, Murphy's Law, motherfucker. Yeah. But yeah, she comes down complaining about a ghost while they're at breakfast, and the ghost keeps knocking things off her shelf. In this case, a lunar lander, or a model of one, which is kind of important later. But so there's like, they already introduced that there's sort of, I guess you could say, like a spiritual, supernatural-ish element to this movie, or at least that's like the framing that they're giving it, even if it doesn't end up being like supernatural in that sense by the end of it. But yeah, they're talking about ghosts, and they it's clear this world that they're in, like, something is very fucked up. They don't really get into it right away, but the basic premise of it is the blight. We're like in the future, like 70 or 80 years or something like that. We're not totally sure. And the blight has happened. And the blight is making all these crops go extinct. Like, wheat has been extinct for a while. Okra, they're talking about, is like, we're at the end of okra. I think it's interesting that the blight is not a man-made environmental disaster. Well, that's one of the ways they skirt it, being like a political movie. It's funny because they talk about the Dust Bowl in the beginning, and the Dust Bowl was 100% a man-made environmental disaster. Right. Like, right. 1,000%. Yeah. And it was so bad, like, even back then, they recognized the need for more responsible ecology. Well, and then we've just kind of forgotten about that. Back then, they were like, if you move to the desert and plant stuff, it'll make rain happen. And actually, it turns out like rainforests and rain sort of work in that way, but like you but that wasn't the only issue with it. No. Like, it was also just damming up all of the natural waterways, clearing all of the natural plant life in favor of crops that add nothing to the soil, removing topsoil, or just like removing all of the natural vegetation that prevents topsoil from eroding. So it all just dried up and blew away. Yeah. Yep. It was completely man-made. It's like what happened in Iraq and, like thousands of years ago. This one. Oh, yeah. Like, before Iraq was a desert, it was like, there was, it was Mesopotamia. It was, there was... I mean, it was a desert. Oh, dogs. Lied. There will be dogs that will bark. Doggies. Calm down.
I mean, before Mesopotamia was a total desert. There was like water and like plants. And,
there were like annual rains and
but
stuff.
there was. I think it's theorized at least is that there was overfarming. Without like proper crop rotation and things like that, and like the soil got destroyed.
Gosh
and
darn civilization.
Yeah, civilization fucked up the desert or brought up the desert. But whatever the case, yeah, the blight in this movie, they explain that it feeds off of nitrogen. It uses nitrogen for sustenance to continue, and they don't.
So it's corn.
Well, yeah, corn still exists for some reason. Presumably because corn uses so much nitrogen from the soil would be my guess. I don't know. But it skirts the idea of carbon playing a role in this happening at all. And it's just like, yeah, this is just a thing that happened, you know, the thing that's 80% of our atmosphere already, you know, this fungi or bacteria or whatever that they don't really explain.
Which, even if it were, though, that would probably be man-made. Like, anytime there's, like, some pest that just comes and devastates, like, everything, it's usually because somebody did something to fuck up whatever was keeping that thing in check.
Right.
Like, killing all the sparrows allowed bugs to devastate crops in China.
Yes. But basically, they're all, you know, food is running out, and, you know, it's also going to reduce oxygen in the atmosphere, which is going to make Earth uninhabitable. And it's all fucky. So Matthew McConaughey is, a single dad of two kids, Murph, and I don't remember what's the other kid's name? Tom. Yeah, Murph and Tom, and they live with Matthew McConaughey, whose name is Cooper. They live with his father-in-law, played by John Lithgow, of all people, whose name is Donald. But Coop needs to take his kids to school and has like conferences with teachers or whatever. On the way to school, there's this like very kind of curious scene where their truck breaks down, but then they see this giant drone fly overhead that they just like, there's like a 10-minute chase scene where they're following this drone and trying to hack it from the sky. And they explain that I think it's Indian, an old Indian drone that's just like automatically going. It's like fueled by solar energy, so it's just been flying around for like 15 years or something like that. It has no goals or destination, and they just
I just love the idea of these like just drones that are just flying around forever.
Yeah.
What's powering it?
So I think it's solar is what they said.
Like all of the drones that are being used in warfare might just become like lost nomadic things. Just like
pterodactyls that are just these
part
huge,
of the landscape.
Right. Yeah. Paintings start appearing where it's just like flocks fields and flocks of drones.
Oh, they're migrating.
Yeah, but
the Great Migration happens every year around this time.
But it serves absolutely nothing to the plot except to like emphasize that like these guys are kind of like, you got to be like gritty scrappers to like exist, and
kind of like that's the only instance of gritty scrapping that we see.
Yeah, they imply
everybody seems fairly comfortable.
It's weird. So there's been a huge population drop on this planet. Like they say like something like we've lost like 6 billion people or something like that. Like there's this implication that there's like fucking nobody left.
I mean, there's this kind of mood in this movie that I think actually is what it would be like in the face of an environmental disaster, at least in the first world, like in America, where it's just sort of like your dull everyday life goes on as usual with more and more pressing inconveniences.
Right.
But like kids still go to school, the state still is just oppressive and annoying, and everything is just like routine until everyone suffocates and dies.
It's weird. Like, they have gas. They're all driving cars that they're not plugging in anywhere.
Yeah.
They go through this, they have this idea that this drone is benign. It's not like a terror in the sky, it's just like this thing. It's just a relic from
a failed state.
Yeah, they go to school and they talk about the son has like good grades, he's doing really well, and he's tested into farming. And like, no, he can't go to, like, they have rationed college, which is sort of like the conservative nightmare of.
Yeah, it's so college is apparently paid for by the state because Coop is like, well, I pay my taxes, so why can't my son go to college?
Yeah, but.
And they're like, because we don't need more engineers, we need more farmers.
Yeah, which maybe makes sense.
I don't get why he can't go to school for agriculture.
No,
like, did
no, I mean
Texas A&M just like oh, okay.
Like
so
he's testing.
I was concerned for the Aggies.
No. I think
he's Texas A&M, right?
I don't know. I have no idea. Is that like Texas A&M is a farming university?
It's a state university with. They call themselves Aggies.
It's cool. I mean, maybe they're all. Is this it? Are you correct?
Yeah.
The Aggies.
Yeah, for agriculturalists.
Yeah, presumably that's what like 90% of kids end up like going to school for. I think in this world, so that we could continue
to eat. I
guess, but as crops continued to fail and disappear and all that stuff, it kind of seems like. Well, and then they start talking about his daughter who got like bullied at school because she brought in an old textbook that, what do they call it? An old federal textbook is what they call it, where they talk about
the moon landing.
And
how it was real, but apparently it was a brilliant piece of propaganda that never happened.
Yeah. So yeah, the new state line is we faked the moon landings to bankrupt the Soviet Union.
Conspiracy, layered on conspiracy. But the reason that they've decided to say this is that they don't want to promote any kind of wasteful government spending.
Right. Which is, again, I think him towing the line and to be like, no, this isn't actually a conservative movie. But
it's funny because I feel like, well, okay, so conservatives nowadays do kind of see NASA as a waste. But I remember a day when conservatives would be like, we went to the moon.
Well, and they still would. But that's just because like most conservatives don't like have really good strong ideologies other than like fuck brown and poor people, and also like
we're better than the commies.
Yeah,
but like why don't it's something that I've never really understood. Like my grandfather was a contractor through the military for NASA, and that like
huge if true. How connected are you to the U.S. government, Pinko Snob?
He got laid off, I think, but
okay. Okay,
this was like in the heyday of NASA, like post World War II.
Okay.
He got out of the war. He stayed in the military. He got a job as a contractor after the military. What?
Set design or something like that for NASA for filming.
Yeah,
the moon landings.
I think he was painting the little like lunar lander thing.
Cool.
Yeah, so he got, I don't know, it was like a huge part of the economy in Florida where they lived.
Yeah.
Like working for NASA was like lots of tons of people just, you know, put food on the table through this.
It's hard to fake a moon landing. You need lots of resources to do it.
That's not where I'm going with this. I'm just going to it's just weird to me that like conservatives see that as wasteful, but like I mean, it's kind of like the military industrial complex now where like tons and tons of people work for like Boeing.
Well, right. I mean, they see it as wasteful because there's no way to
kill brown people with it.
Well,
which was what
Boeing does. But it's also like you can't see, you know, like what is success if not profit? You know, like how do you actually measure that a thing is successful except that shareholders are making money
but shareholders can make money off the government spending a ton of money to send a fucking rocket ship to the moon. Like the same way that we can make tons of money off of building jets and fighter planes that will never fly. Like can't fly because it rained.
No,
like,
that's the best.
What is that plane?
Anti-imperialist project ever. Oh man, the F1. Shit, what is that called?
I saw one. It was like this special boat or ship, and it had this special gun, and it has this huge capability, but the ammunition for the ship gun cannon thing is so expensive and hard to manufacture that they will never ever put it into production. So they spent billions of dollars creating the prototype for this ship, but they'll never use it because each one of the the ammunition things, rockets, whatever, for the ship's gun is like millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's right. It's the F-35 is the name of that.
Or like we keep building Abrams tanks, right? They're the ones that are currently in use. Every year.
I don't know that much about warfare, to be totally honest.
I just know about every year the Army goes to Congress and is like, yo, we can save you guys a few $1 million. We don't need any more tanks. And Congress is like, the fuck you don't.
Just keep building
we
more
have
tanks.
Jobs on the line. So they build these tanks and they go sit in the desert and they will never rust because they're rust-proof tanks. So they just sit in the desert. There's fleets of them.
Man, very cool. We should, leftists should go to the desert.
You can't, though, because there's they have manpower,
they're guarding
they're
the tanks?
guarded heavily, so now we have to spend all the money to guard the tanks that nobody wants.
That's cool as hell. Very cool. I'm into this. But yeah, I don't know. They get into this chat about useless machines, and which they're talking about the lunar lander specifically, and he takes that as they used to have other useless machines too, like the MRI machine that could have
saved my wife.
Yeah, saved my wife.
And the tanks that are still in the desert, not rusting, still perfectly good tanks. Maybe there's a little sand in them. Might have to dust them off a little bit. I'm sorry, my Matthew McConaughey voice is not good.
That's okay. I had this buddy.
Yours always sounds like Foghorn Leghorn.
My transition into Foghorn Leghorn very quickly. I had this buddy who lived in Ireland for a couple of years, and he said ladies loved the Matthew McConaughey voice. They were just like, just do the Matthew McConaughey voice.
Your friend just in bed.
No, he was in a committed relationship with someone, but he'd go out to bars with her, and her friends and stuff would be like, just do the Matthew McConaughey voice, please. And he did a good Matthew McConaughey. If he was here right now, I'd have him do it, and you'd be impressed. But alas,
oh yeah, even though I don't like Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, you'd be impressed by the the timbre of his voice, what he's able to achieve from what his regular speaking voice is.
Is he more attractive than Matthew McConaughey?
I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe.
I mean, I don't think he's attractive.
I mean, then maybe.
Especially
I don't
in
know.
this movie. He's so scrawny in this movie.
But whatever the case, they get into this talk. The teachers refer to them, what's going on now. We're now the caretaker generation, is what they refer to Matthew McConaughey, and also I think his son and daughter, the caretaker generation, which is part of the big rift of this film.
Oh yeah, he's like, we used to be explorers. Yeah. Now we're caretakers, and it's like, but yeah. I guess because when I first watched this movie, I assumed that the environmental disaster was man-made, and so I was like, why would you want to go back to all that when it caused this horrible fate? But I guess it wasn't man-made.
Well,
he wants to go back to being the adventuring generation. Also, I really love...
They ignore this altogether. You know, John Lithgow at one point sort of, like when they're at the baseball game, I think, they're watching a New York Yankees game.
It's unnatural to eat popcorn at a baseball game. I want a hot dog.
Yeah, and he sort of just talks about
their diet isn't more meat heavy.
The excesses of the 20. Well, but you have to feed all those things, and there's no.
Yeah, true. There's still corn.
There's still corn. Yeah.
But I guess that's true. Like you basically have to make the food twice.
Yeah.
For meat, but okay, so like. I thought it was very strange that he was like wanting to go back to like he's almost seeing it as we're the generation of like the cucks. Look at where
that's just it. He says
it's like we've forgotten who we are, Tom. Explorers, pioneers, not caretakers.
When I was a kid, it felt like they made something new every day. Some gadget or idea. Like every day was Christmas. But 6 billion people. Just try to imagine that. And every last one of them trying to have it all. This world isn't so bad. And Tom will do just fine. You're the one who doesn't belong. Born 40 years too late or 40 years too early. My daughter knew it, God bless her. And your kids know it, especially Murph.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
This movie does not think at all for one moment about anything other than really white Americans.
No
other species or plant or animal or anything.
You could argue just from the quote that you said that what he's saying is like, oh wow, look what's happened to us, look what this blight has done to us. But really he's saying this after being indignant that like the school won't let his son be an engineer, and it's like he feels like he's lost something he's entitled to because society got too, like, that society's being a bunch of pussies. Mm-hmm. And, like, does not seem to care at all that everyone is starving to death.
No,
like,
not at all.
Not even a little. And also, I think it's really funny that his dad, or his father-in-law, I guess it's his father-in-law, the old man is probably a millennial.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think John Lithgow is a millennial. And all, as complaining as ever.
Yeah, so it's like a movie about
actually,
like
he's good.
This is the world that whiny millennials are going to create.
God damn it. But yeah, they're at this baseball game watching the New York Yankees play. They look like.
It looks like a minor league game.
It looks even more minor than that.
I didn't realize it was the New York Yankees.
Yeah, they introduced them as the world famous New York Yankees, and they're not anywhere in New York or anywhere near New York. I think it's.
Well, they travel. Maybe they didn't.
Yeah, but I imagine it's sort of like they're like a Harlem Globetrotters of baseball.
They travel.
But the game gets interrupted by like this massive dust storm that's coming through. and they go back to the house, and it's this whole everyone's masked up and geared up, and there's tons of wind and sand, and it's a fucking mess. And they go up to I keep forgetting the little girl's name. Murph's room, and
the little brat didn't close her windows.
The brat didn't close her windows, but in the dust coming through, these lines are appearing on the floor, which they're attributing to a gravitational anomaly, is what they call it. And Matthew McConaughey, who's very dismissive of the ghost idea, and so talks about earlier. He talked about like what sort of rigorous science his daughter should have to go through in order to prove that it's a ghost. And so now he starts like writing down, trying to make sense of these lines of sand that have come through, and eventually figures out that it's binary, I think, and it leads to a particular set of coordinates, which he goes for a drive with Murph, who is his favorite kid. He does not seem to really give a shit
give a fuck about his farmer kid.
His farmer boy.
The kid's gonna be a farmer, so who cares?
Yeah, who gives a shit? And he ends up at it's actually a NORAD facility, an old burnt out NORAD facility, but it's the last remnants of NASA who are operating in secret. And I think they talked about this earlier, but Matt McConaughey was he was a NASA pilot for a little while, one of the last NASA pilots. And they start and they meet Anne Hathaway, who's interrogating Matthew McConaughey with a robot, who is actually, I think, one of the better, it's a cool design and one of the more personable robots that you'll ever see.
Yeah, I like the robots. I do think that their design is weird. I
kind of like them. They're like a series of blocks that
walk.
Yeah. It's this one is named
and somehow don't make a ton of noise while they do it.
No, yeah, they're these lovely silent things.
Silent rectangles.
But yeah, Tars, who's voiced by Bill Irwin, who is actually famous, but I
like that they each have their own names.
Tars and what's the other one? Case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, but they interrogate him, and they've separated him from his daughter, and when he goes to see his daughter, he realizes his old mentor, boss, I don't really remember what his relationship with Professor Brand is, played by Michael Caine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Michael Caine basically
is the same character that he plays in Batman.
Yeah, kind of a wise curmudgeon. But yeah, he lays out what NASA's been doing underground for the last 12 years or whatever, which amounts to a secret space program.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, again, they're very interested when they hear that Matthew McConaughey got here by way of some sort of gravitational anomaly, because they talk about a real big gravitational anomaly that they came across, which is a wormhole that appeared by Saturn.
I really love the fact that the United States government and NASA are, in order to save the world, they're putting their faith in an unknown they, some sort of omniscient they.
Right.
It's cool.
So yeah, they start talking about how they put this wormhole, and they have been putting gravitational anomalies around. And again, we're back on this idea of like spirituality and faith and things like that again.
Yeah.
And throughout this whole thing, the main theme is based on this cathedral church organ. I forget what famous London cathedral it was played in, whose organ they used, but it's an actual church organ. They placed this black hole or this wormhole that led to this part of the universe where there's, I think, 12 different planets. So they sent 12 different astronauts.
12 disciples.
Yeah, apostles.
Same thing.
But
yeah,
12 apostles. They send when what they figure amounts to be like suicide missions for many of them, basically they're one of these planets they believe must be hospitable, or else they wouldn't have opened this wormhole for us to be able to travel through to it. Now, the idea, they also show Matthew McConaughey, what do they call it? A population bomb.
right.
Which are like embryos and fake wombs that they plan to repopulate whatever this world is.
Who's taking care of all the babies?
That's a good question.
And they never explained that to me.
No, they don't.
This is gonna be a world run by babies.
Boss Baby Planet, which is kind of cool. Just
okay,
like
Boss Baby and Interstellar exist in the same universe.
that's true. Yeah, Boss Baby is Interstellar like 4 years later, or a little less probably. I don't know. But yeah, they don't. But the idea is that the embryos are just a backup plan, because ideally
They call them Plan B.
Yeah, they call them Plan B.
Like the birth control.
Which is, I guess ironic.
Yeah.
I didn't get that joke when I was watching it, but that's funny. But ideally, they figure out this equation that Dr. Brand has been working on most of his life, that basically bends gravity in such a way so that they can put the population of, or at least a large population, which we'll talk about later, of Earth into this space station that they're building underground, which is basically the facility that they're in right now. But there's a missing piece of this equation that can only be found, like the unknown, the x unknown of this equation or the number can only be found inside a black hole. Like the information that they need exists in there, and we can't, by definition of a black hole, you can't see in there. So they're relying on the idea that they're just going to keep throwing numbers at this, and before he dies and before humanity dies, and hopefully one of those numbers will work and they'll be able to bend gravity in such a way to lift this space station off of Earth and through this wormhole into a better planet. So it's quite a little scenario they have set up, but it's a really good thing that Matt McConaughey, that Coop has showed up, because no one on Earth apparently has ever flown for NASA before, except for Matthew McConaughey.
Which it's weird that he's been toiling away in obscurity and nobody thought to call him.
Yeah, no one was like,
wait, there's the last guy to ever fly for NASA. Like, they would presumably know who he was.
Yeah.
I don't think he was living in hiding.
No, he seems like way too bored to be like actively hiding from anyone. Everyone has gas. They just drive everywhere without thinking about it. It's not like Mad Max World. Someone should just, if nothing else, drive to his house.
Give him a call.
I mean,
Ask him how he's doing.
They're using walkie-talkies for everything. Like Matt McConaughey is talking to his stepdad and son through like walkie-talkies for like most of this.
Yeah, but that's just because walkie-talkies are cool.
That's true. Good
I
point.
feel like it was an aesthetic choice.
Yeah.
And
I think the phone lines are down.
I could see farms using walkie-talkies to talk. Like, maybe the phone lines are down. But also, like, people who work on, like, college campuses and golf courses and shit use walkie-talkies to communicate.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
I don't know. Also, I feel like... Where were we in relation to the Nextel walkie-talkie phone thing?
In 2014?
I thought you said this was 2004.
2014.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, we
moved past that.
We had moved way past that. Those were invasive and annoying by 2014 and not fun.
They were invasive and annoying when they came out.
Yeah, and it took us like collectively 10 or 12 months to agree as
It didn't take that long.
as a civilization that we shouldn't be using them anymore. But yeah, so Coop says basically they want to go to the 3 of these planets that they got like signals back from to see which one is habitable and to, you know, theoretically send the Earth there or send Plan B there. And Matthew McConaughey is to lead this mission along with Anne Hathaway and I forget the other people. David Gaiassi is, I think, the actor's name, who plays Romilly, and then I forget who else is on that ship. A robot and another dude, right? I don't remember. Gosh, there's another dude on that ship, right? Doyle is his name.
Okay.
Played by Wes Bentley.
Yeah, they all go into space.
Yeah, they go into space.
They go to their planet.
Well, no, what's the important part before that is that Matt McConaughey to his son is like, the farm's yours now.
And then he drives his truck away.
They like, you know, hug it out, and he goes to his daughter and is like, I have to go. And his daughter is like so mad at him, and rightfully so.
Yeah, he doesn't even give her time to process this.
And
also,
there's Morse code Morse code coming out of the bookshelf, being like, "Don't go,"
saying "stay"
or "stay,"
and he won't listen to the girl.
And he won't listen, and he basically leaves in a fury. That's like, "How dare she be mad at me?"
Yeah.
And then he just drives away.
And well, no, he tells his son, "The truck is yours." And then he drives away in the truck like somebody should drop him off.
Yeah, what an asshole.
Also, like, if somebody's leaving for forever, you drive them to drop them off.
Yeah.
But then I guess we wouldn't have that dramatic scene of him driving away in the very long driveway with the dust, which is only like a couple seconds on screen, but I have to imagine that his son was watching him drive away for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just dust blowing and as this truck takes off, and just thinking like, he took my fucking truck. Mm-hmm. We're stuck here now. We're stuck like on this fucking farm.
Yeah, like that's the only vehicle on the farm. They can't leave now.
But yeah, they take off in this and they connect with this like greater space station thing that's already in space that looks kind of like a clock, which I think time is like a big thing in this movie. But it has 12 separate, equally placed chambers, and it spins around, and it looks a lot like a fucking apostles. Clock. And what?
12 apostles. I don't know. 12 is in this movie a lot.
Yeah.
Because this movie is religious AF.
Yeah.
The person who wrote this movie really liked the Bible. Yeah. Or thought that Christian imagery was hella deep.
It might be that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, Christopher Nolan, I think, is pretty conservative. So he might be pretty Christian.
Is that why all his movies suck?
I don't think they suck. I
don't like these
well,
movies.
okay.
I'm not fun with movies. I don't like a lot of them.
I don't think it sucks. I mostly think this movie is beautiful and
It
like
is
kind
beautiful.
of fun. But
It's also really ripping off Space Odyssey.
yeah, but instead of explaining nothing, it explains everything. That's the other
Ad
thing about this
nauseam.
movie. Yeah, the dialogue is just like
You know that
it's
rule like show don't tell.
yeah.
Space
my
Odyssey
God.
follows that rule too closely.
Yeah.
This movie throws that rule right out the window.
It's just every little bit of science. They're like, we're gonna tackle this real deep.
They explain what Murphy's Law is in the
Yeah.
movie wrongly.
Yeah, but
Like this thing that everyone has heard of.
yeah, they go. At nothing is left to the imagination at all. Everything is over the top. But yeah, they're in the spacecraft, and just before they're gonna go to into I think a 2-year sleep on their way to Saturn. They get messages back and forth from their homes, and John Lithgow and his boy Tom sort of talk to him, but say that Murph isn't speaking to them. And this sort of starts. Christopher Nolan always has a complicated relationship with women in his movies, and that he writes them pretty poorly or is like straight up bad to them.
They're always angry.
Memento.
At least in this movie. Although I don't think Batman's girlfriend was very angry.
No, she was helpless
Yeah.
in like everything. Anne Hathaway as Catwoman was just sort of like, I actually really like the idea of her character, but she's supposed to be like a naive kind of like ideologically naive. Yeah.
She's just like a criminal who just thinks it might be exciting and fun to me.
Right. And Batman's like, it's not fun. And she's like, but it is, and we're supposed to be like, yeah, no, Batman's right. Yeah. Just be happy and be Bruce Wayne's girlfriend.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Catwoman's kind of a disappointing character too.
yeah, it's a shame. But so yeah, they go to sleep. They come back, and again, Murph isn't talking to them still, and they have messages from, the kid and John Lithgow and all that stuff. But Murph is not speaking to them, and they take this trip to the black hole, which again is like one of those. This movie is stunning visually, like it's absolutely beautiful. The music is, I think, like it's over the top, but in like a really good way.
Yeah, the music's great. The visuals are great. The dialogue sucks. Matthew McConaughey sucks. The robots are cool.
The robots are cool.
Anne Hathaway's haircut, not great.
No, not
Which
really.
sucks. She's a very beautiful woman.
Yeah,
They
but
made her so ugly.
so they cross through the wormhole, and so for some reason they haven't fucking decided on like their game plan yet.
Yeah.
They're like figuring this out on the fly.
Well, maybe because they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going to happen.
It's true. But while they're going through the black hole, Anne Hathaway touches like a figure.
Oh
that,
yeah,
like,
she
appears.
sees like a. It's not even like a figure. It's just like a bendy thing in space, and she touches it, and her fingers get all bendy.
And she shakes its hand.
And she says it's a first handshake.
Yeah,
with
and
the them.
with the them.
Who we will discover. I'll tell you in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Not really.
Phew.
I'll tell you later. I'm not gonna spoil it.
But yeah, they get there and they're like, well, we got signals coming through 3 planets. One of them is right on the edge of this black hole, and for every like hour we're there will be 7 years on Earth because of time dilations of something. I don't really. I always
take this
pretend
time
like I
dilation
understand.
thing like way, like more than I think. Okay, so like that's definitely like true at a black hole
Yes.
because of the gravity,
Yes.
and like time probably moves a little bit, like slightly off on Saturn than on Earth because even like satellites rotating around the Earth have to have their clocks calibrated because they move a little faster than they do here on Earth.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
But, like, so when they go to this, like, planet that they're going to go to, while they're on the planet, to them, a few hours elapse and, like, 20 years elapse on the ship.
Right.
I don't get that. Like, how dense is this planet?
Well, it's because they're in. Okay, again, I'm not going to pretend like I actually can explain the science of this in like a reasonable way, but it has to do with relativity and how space-time relate to each other, and when there's like a denser gravitational place, space-time, as if it's like an actual thing, like basically folds and bends.
Yeah.
To go, okay. And so they're in this planet itself is like in the, what the fuck do they call it? It's I forget what it's called. The black hole. But when
it's
you're
like
actually
in part of the black hole.
Essentially.
Okay, but the dude is still just orbiting the planet in the ship, right?
So he's far enough away to be outside of it, and that was part of like how they strategized.
I thought he was just orbiting the planet, and I was like,
no, he's a little bit further away from all of this.
Okay,
yeah,
they should have moved him a little closer
so that it went quickly for him
he wouldn't be horribly traumatized.
Yeah. It was fuel. It's something to do with fuel or something like that.
Well, because their friend dies, and they're traumatized by that.
Yeah, so they get down there, and it's
all water.
It's all fucking water, and they have these
there's giant, terrifying waves.
Yeah, and it looks
beautiful.
Really cool. But they realize the signal that's been repeating as being like all good for the last however many years on the planet. They probably crashed like 10 minutes ago because they actually got the timing off. So like they're only there for a couple minutes, but it was like 21 years.
Yeah, so they get back to the ship, and their friend, the redhead dude, dies while they're on the planet.
Bummer.
Because Anne Hathaway fucks up. Yeah,
refused to not get the data, which ended up being a colossal waste of time, which, I guess.
But in her defense, like, they went all the way the fuck there for the data.
No, I get it.
It would have been a huge waste of the mission if they hadn't done it.
The movie shits on her.
The movie totally portrays her as, like, she disobeyed Matthew McConaughey's orders, which I don't really think that they ever established that Matthew McConaughey was in charge of the mission.
Yeah,
There's no clear hierarchy here. I mean, he's just like, I told you to do a thing and you didn't do it, and there's no clear reason why she should listen besides that he's Matthew McConaughey.
So in the hierarchy of this movie,
he's in charge for some reason.
He's the white, non-redheaded man.
Yeah,
and so he's in charge of this mission.
He's the most Anglo one here. Yeah. And then next it's Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
And then the redheaded guy.
Yep.
And then the black man.
Yep.
And somewhere in there is the robots. I think they're a little below Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that they're like just below Anne Hathaway, actually.
Yeah, I think so too.
But anyway, they come back. Anne Hathaway's crying after being yelled at by Matthew McConaughey. And their friend what is his name?
Williams.
Williams.
Doyle's the guy who died.
He would be named Doyle. Like Doyle rules.
And then Williams
is like, he walks out and he's just like shaking in a bathroom. He's like, I waited for years.
Yeah.
And she's like, why didn't you put yourself into sleep? And he's like, because it was my life. I was wasting it. Which is
Fair
true.
Enough.
Although, doesn't the sleep like keep you in stasis? Or
I think it keeps you. I don't think you could live forever in that, but I think you could live like a much longer time.
Well, he made a good point that like spending his whole life in stasis is not fun, but he's like super like shook because he hasn't had another human around for 20 years.
Yeah.
Poor man.
Or even,
he's had a robot for company, but like,
didn't the robot come with them?
One of them did.
The other one's not there yet.
Oh.
Yeah. He's
So he
been
was just
by
alone.
himself. He's just been...
Why wouldn't they leave something? Like, they expected that he would experience years of loneliness.
Yeah.
They didn't prepare at all. They should have left Doyle.
He did get
Or Anne
messages.
Hathaway.
He got messages.
But he can't talk to anybody in real time.
No, absolutely
He
not.
can't send any messages to anybody.
No, yeah, you're right.
Because they can't get any data
They
out
could
of the
just
black
get
hole.
basic little pings from the...
All they can do is receive messages.
Yeah, like, he
So-
can't even post.
Yeah, he can't even post.
Fuck.
There's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, in space.
So he basically just like lost his mind because he was in solitary confinement for 20 years.
Which, so a couple things happen after this. After they meet up, Matthew McConaughey checks the machine and sees his son getting older. They buried the stepdad. He's buried in the farm. Son has a wife and a kid.
Son
And
gets just more,
turns into Casey Affleck.
yeah,
actually.
and just gets more beardy
Yeah.
and husky as time goes on.
And yeah, his first kid dies also because they live in sand and dust.
The kid gets the black lung.
Yep. And there's still no word from the daughter until the very end of the messages.
Where she just is like, fuck you,
where
Dad.
she's just like, yeah, fuck you, Dad. Peace. You know, and she's a scientist now. She works for Dr. Brand. She's helping,
works
but
for
is still
Alfred.
just like, this is the first, and we're about to see it again. The first of just like
Women being mean to Matthew McConaughey all the time.
Women be emotional. Women just be emotional beings. Everyone else is fucking science.
Oh yeah,
Science,
this is
science,
also
science.
like the. Did we talk about the planet and Anne Hathaway's decision?
And that's the next thing that happens.
Okay.
Is they're talking about where to go next because again, he's had 21 years to look at all this.
I'm sorry. I burped and I tasted that cracker again. It's awful.
It's a cookie. It's not a cracker.
It's so small and it just is with me for the rest of my life.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. They
It was so bad.
fuck. But yeah, they talk about where to go next, and there's two planets, and they're both getting signals with good data or whatever. And one of them has Dr. Mann on it, who is fucking shockingly Matt Damon, who like in the same year was The Martian.
Much better movie.
I also thought about doing one on The Martian because
like
I have
that
things
movie.
I have feelings about The Martian
Good
too.
feelings?
No,
Really?
I mean I didn't hate
I
The
love
Martian.
that movie.
But I was like, y'all really gonna spend like $7 billion to get one person home? But whatever. That was all I could think about for that whole movie was how much money they were spending to save this one white dude trapped on Mars. But
Yeah, but it's still a good movie.
no, it's cool. Yeah, I liked
And
it.
I think it was probably one of the more accurate space movies.
No, yeah, it was nerdy as shit.
Yeah, it was good. Anyway.
But yeah, Dr. Mann is on one place. I forget the other, Dr. Edmund or something. I forget his name.
Edmund Planet. Yeah, that's what they keep calling it.
And they're sort of taking a vote about where to go. And Matthew McConaughey gleaned this earlier. Was like, you know, Romilly, before you cast your vote, you should know that
Anne Hathaway's
Anne
in love with
Hathaway
Edmund.
is in love with Edmund. And he's like, huh?
And then she goes on this speech about how love is a scientific thing that's important.
So what she says, and I want to talk about this a little bit.
Love isn't something we invented. It's observable, powerful. It has to mean something.
Love has meaning, yes. Social utility, social bonding, child rearing.
We love people who have died. Where's the social utility in that?
None.
Maybe it means something more, something we can't yet understand. Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of a higher dimension that we can't consciously perceive. I'm drawn across the universe to someone I haven't seen in a decade, who I know is probably dead. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
Now, that's something that's an for whatever reason, an attribute they give to gravity as well. That it can transcend time and space. Which
so she's arguing that her feelings of love are really just the universe calling them to this planet, basically.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think, any more ridiculous than NASA sending them on this mission because some mysterious they told them this is the answer.
Yeah. okay.
Or putting Matthew McConaughey in charge of this mission because they made binary lines in his daughter's bedroom with dust.
Well, so when I first saw this, my immediate reaction was like, of course, this is another women are just fucking emotional beings.
Right, but then when they decide to go to man's planet, the man planet, by the way, and it turns out that place is beat. It's just a frozen wasteland, and Dr. Man has completely lost his mind.
Well, and
was lying about everything.
The whole thesis of the third act is that Anne Hathaway is correct.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't make her sound any more rational. Like, when you watch the scene, part of it is just like her performance and how she like reads these lines. She just sounds like desperate and not like...
Everybody in this movie is desperate.
That's true. But it's just like it reads, and maybe I'm the misogynist. It's definitely possible. It's definitely possible, but it reads as like, here's this woman giving her
I think that you just expected this movie to be sexist because it's Christopher Nolan.
And he's bad at writing women.
And she is not written well.
And we just had a scene just not 2 minutes earlier
Yeah.
where daughter comes out
She's
of nowhere
not
to be like,
very...
fuck you, Dad.
Anne Hathaway, and also... Well, the daughter, I think, is pretty sympathetic, actually. But Anne Hathaway is not written in a very sympathetic way.
No.
The daughter, I think, the fuck you, Dad, is like... I think it's important because, I mean, at the end, it was that she was right, too.
No, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that, like, again, Matthew McConaughey is, like, just wrong. You know, he is the antagonist through this movie.
He's wrong about everything the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time. But whatever the case, because Matthew McConaughey is fucking wrong, they're like, let's go to... I'm sorry. There was just one other thing about this, is that lots of people watch this movie, and again, myself included, and we're like, what the fuck is this speech? You know, Anne Hathaway is this, like, scientist lady...
But it's not any weirder than we should go chasing this black hole because they told us
agreed.
to.
Well,
and we should put Matthew McConaughey on the mission because they told him to come find us.
There's so many movies and books and ideas where, like, love is exactly this thing.
Yeah.
Like, Voldemort can't hurt Harry Potter because of his mom's love. You know, and that's the
entirety of, like, every fairy tale ever. True love saves the day always. The fucking Princess Bride.
A Wrinkle in Time, you know, is all about that. You know, there's so much stuff where you don't need, like, a deeper explanation. They try to quantify this in, like, that sciencey way, which is also what adds to the ridiculousness.
It's a hero's journey mythology, but with science shit added to it.
But so whatever the case, they go to this fucking planet, and they're flying down towards Dr. Man's signal, and they're crashing into like ice clouds of ice,
which makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't think so, but again, visually very cool.
Yeah.
And they get there, and Dr. Man's like, yeah, it kind of sucks up here, but I sent some probes down to the surface, and yeah, it fucking rules there. Breathable air.
What does he mean the surface? 'Cause I thought they were on the surface.
Well, and that's the thing. So, he's talking to them about, like, it sucks here, but just sit tight, you'll see. This is the place. I've been sending these signals out with these good vibrations on them for a reason, I promise. And then he gets into this.
And there's the mysteriously trashed robot in the corner.
Yeah, there's a mysteriously trashed Case is the name of the robot. And where was it? But basically, they agree. They're like, okay, we'll stay here. If this is the place you say it is, we'll set up some camps. Matt McConaughey, I don't remember why he's gonna go back to basically like relay the news, or I don't remember what exactly his plan is.
Penny,
but
it's okay. Sorry, my horrible daughter was just being horrible.
Okay, so yeah, they planned. They're like, we're gonna go out and we're gonna, Matt Damon's like, me and you, Matt, we're gonna go set up this. I'll show you where this base camp is gonna be. And they go on this walk, and Dr. Man. Oh, this is one of the other big biblical and sort of Dante's Inferno parables is they keep talking about man was the best of us, and he was the guy who basically convinced these 12 scientists to go on this fucking suicide mission into a wormhole to whatever, and based on faith alone. And he starts going. He wakes up. He says the last time he set his like sleep timer was to never necessarily wake up. Right. And so he literally was raised from the dead, which is also what Matt McConaughey is expected to do. When he's saying goodbye to his daughter, he's saying, maybe when I come back, you'll be as old as I am, which is literally where we're at now. So we'll be the same age. There's a couple of second comings, taking place here. But Dr. Man is walking Matt McConaughey along, sort of talking about human evolution and preservation, things like that. And then he sort of drops this bombshell that this equation that the professor was supposed to be getting to save all the people on Earth, he gave up on it. And he knew how much harder it would be for people to come together and save the species instead of themselves or their children. Evolution is yet to transcend that simple barrier. We can care deeply, selflessly for people we know, but our empathy rarely extends beyond our line of sight. Excuse me, burp. But basically, he becomes this fallen. He becomes the fucking devil. He is like, I am getting off this rock in order to save the species because we can't save them here. Mm-hmm. And I was sent here to die, and I'm actually not cool with that. I never, actually believed that I wouldn't be sent to the right planet. And he busts Matthew McConaughey's mask and all this shit and leaves him to die. And, he rigs this robot to explode, who kills then the only African American character in this movie. And Anne Hathaway has to come with a robot and save Matt McConaughey. And they have this race in 2 different ships to the space station that's waiting out there. Matt McConaughey tries to, or I'm sorry, Dr. Mann.
Wait, wasn't the robot he was trying to repair Case?
Yeah.
So they did have 2 robots to begin with, because Case is a character later on.
Maybe you're right.
Tars and Case are both around.
Maybe
because
you're right.
one of them goes in the black hole and the other one goes.
No, yeah, you're right. They are both around for the whole thing. Huh.
It's okay. It's not
No,
that
yeah,
important.
you're absolutely right. They're both on the.
So they have their like race to the space station.
Yeah.
And one of the robots has rigged Man's ship so that he no longer has the like automatic function to dock onto the space station.
Right.
So he has to try and do it himself.
Right.
And he fucks up.
Yeah.
And they try to warn him not to do it anyway, not to open the airlock, but he refuses to listen because he's a man. Yep. And he blows himself
Patriotic
up with
man.
a bunch of other shit.
Yeah. And then it starts spinning wildly.
Yeah, the space station is then like careening into space, and they need to get onto that space station. Or no, they need to use the spin of the space station to launch themselves in the right direction.
Well,
because if they don't, they're never going to make it back because they don't have enough fuel.
So even the attaching to the space station is cool because, again, if you think about it as like this clock and there's all this shit about like playing with time, and all of a sudden they need to basically match their spin in their little craft to match the spin of the clock in order to make it look like it's slowing down because they're going the same speed or whatever. The clock metaphor gets fun. But yeah, and then they have to basically they want to hit this third planet. Edmund's planet. And so they take off, and one of the robots, in order to do this, they need extra launch they need to use the gravity of this black hole that they're around to launch towards this other planet.
Which they calculate this in seconds.
Yeah,
amazing.
They're very
they had enough fuel to get back to Earth, but to get to Edmund's planet, they don't have enough fuel.
Yeah,
somehow
like
they calculate in mere moments, without really putting a lot of thought into it, that if we spin ourselves around this spinning space station, it will launch us toward Edmund's planet.
Right.
And then we won't need fuel.
Yeah. Yeah. The Apollo 13 guys who were just doing all this back and forth with Houston the whole time to get all the calculations and stuff. Just dummies.
This
not
farmer.
This farmer, though. This farmer is a math whiz.
I think he has the robot help him, but
yeah, probably.
I guess would you need a lot of fuel in space?
Probably.
There's no air to create friction to slow down your inertia.
You're also not pushing against anything.
Yeah, so once you just are going, you will just continue to go unless something stops you.
Yeah.
Like the gravity of a planet. Which you need fuel to escape from.
Yeah, there's that. I don't know. But whatever the case, in this they sort of are we're gonna drop what's the first robot called? I keep forgetting.
TARS.
Yeah, TARS into the black hole, and TARS will send out data that we can use to solve that equation that we need, hopefully. And during this segment, which at the black hole is fucking beautiful. It's so good. Again, I can't emphasize how pretty this movie is. And during this, Matthew McConaughey reveals at this very last moment that he too is going to jettison himself into this black hole to reduce the weight so that Anne Hathaway could get to Edmund's planet, so that she will live there either with this dude that she loves or just be alone for eternity, which huge bummer.
Well, that's the risk you take for love.
And we have our most 2001 A Space Odyssey moment yet as he's falling into this black hole. And there's the 2001 has this very kind of famous shot of all these colors rushing over the screen of the pilot's space mask and all these weird psychedelic shapes and stuff outside the spacecraft. And again, it's sort of like that, but with like rigorous explanation of what's going on.
Yeah, constantly. Like Matthew McConaughey is just narrating it
right
on the way down, which
and
doesn't
again,
need to do.
It's beautiful. It's great music. It is emotive. And he eventually leaves his spacecraft. He survives his descent into the black hole and enters the Tesseract, which is like a 5-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional, more than 3-dimensional shape.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's sort of, it's just a...
I think it's 5 because gravity and time are also become like physical,
right?
Manipulatable, like just like things that they can control.
Yeah,
the way that we can move through up, down, left, right. They can move through time and gravity. Right,
and it's a giant tesseract of the history of his daughter's bedroom on the farm. Now, the things that we've not really seen that is going on at the same time, which is sort of important, is the son has become a farm.
Penny,
come. So what's going on at the same time is his son is become like an aggro, like militant farmer. Like, you won't take me off my land. And his daughter is, Brand is dead. Brand is dying and is like, I gave up on the equation years ago. And, it's a huge blow, basically being like, you sent my dad on a suicide mission, you asshole. And, but she goes back to the house and like his son's kid is like super sick because again he
lives
just
in a dust bowl,
eats and breathes dust, and the son is like, you won't take me away from this farm, and again this just sort of like he's a dumbass farmer,
and she's trying to get him to get their family to go into a bunker with her.
Yeah, and Topher Grace is there with him for some reason.
He's a doctor.
Yeah, Topher Grace, the doctor, appears.
At the little boy because not Anne Hathaway, Ginger Girl, Murph asked him to. Because the boy is sick.
It's just weird. More that it's weird that Topher Grace becomes like a character in this movie at all. Yeah. I think that's his name, right?
Eric.
Yeah, Topher Grace. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, and there's this whole. She won't let him, or Casey Affleck, who plays old Tom, won't let Murph take his son away, and so she goes and like burns his crops in order to distract him. They go back to the house
to distract him from her exploring her old bedroom.
Yeah, well, they try to gather just the kid, but then she gets like distracted. She just
realizes no, it's because the little boy had a box of her things,
right,
and said, I didn't touch your things, and she grabs something that she's looking at,
like the notebook or the watch, or
the watch becomes important, but that's not what she finds. But she realizes that there was a message coming from that
right
bookshelf.
So
which the message is coming from books flying off the shelf and the letters in the titles of the books corresponding to a message encoded somehow.
I think it was just Morse code.
It was Morse code, but then also like something to do with the encyclopedia set.
Oh, I don't remember that.
The STAY.
Oh yeah, right. But yeah, so Matt McConaughey realizes that he's been the one on the other side of this bookshelf, like doing shit the whole time. So he sent this gravitational anomaly to them. And again, we have this very, very over the top religious allegory where we have these shots of the father, who is Matt McConaughey, the son, who's Murph, and then the Holy Spirit, who is again Matt McConaughey,
floating in a bookshelf,
floating above them in a bookshelf, and doing little gravitational dances for them.
And he sends the Morse code to the watch.
Yeah, and then
with the coordinates to something.
So he's talking to the robot through this whole thing. They're sort of figuring out what's going on together, but the robot collected the data that fills in this equation, and they translate that into binary. I think it's binary or Morse code or something. I think it's binary though. And he programs that into the second hand of this watch, which
I don't know how he does that.
Just that it flicks in like
but
ones
how
and
does
zeros.
He do that?
I don't know.
I guess he can just manipulate time. So he's just manipulated time around the watch, or
I mean,
he just kind of points at it and it happens.
Yeah, he just flicks the second hand over and over again, and he just knows his daughter will find it and figure it out because she's smart, because he respects women, and she does. She finds it. She figures it out. And it's at this point that the Tesseract closes up, spits him out, and he's floating by Saturn. And he says, "I wonder what happens next," or something like that. And then he wakes up. And this is where really I think it all kind of comes together as like a very conservative film. He wakes up in a hospital bed. Outside, there's a baseball game going on.
On this replica of his town.
In a replica of his town.
With a replica of his house.
Yes.
On a space station. Everybody's white.
Everybody's
from small
white.
Town America.
He is the hero of time. He is Link. He's you don't get that. I'm sorry.
That's from Zelda.
It is from Zelda. Link is the hero of time.
Okay.
But he, he's whatever, 127 years old now, but don't look a day over 45. And his daughter, who's very old, is coming to see him. But he gets, a replica of his house has been created because that's like a normal thing to do, I guess.
Well, it was like a museum.
A very limited space station.
Yeah, with like no resources.
Oh, yeah. Also, the space station is named Cooper.
After his daughter.
Yeah, after his daughter, but still.
Yeah, but he assumes it's after him.
Rightfully so. But he goes and he sees his daughter, and it's a weird scene because his whole extended family is there, who amount to like 2 younger generations than him, or 3, I guess. So his daughter and up to her grandchildren, I guess, or maybe even great-grandchildren.
She's pretty old too.
She's very old. But they don't even look at him. They don't really acknowledge him at all.
No, it's kind of a lonely scene. She sends him away because she's like, no one should have to watch their child die. And I'm not alone. I have my family around me. And he's kind of kicked out of the deathbed scene.
Oh, yeah.
Which is strange.
He just backs out and then just like drinks beer on a porch again before like wondering what happened to Anne Hathaway and stealing a jet to go see her. And Anne Hathaway has landed. It's a nice place. She's set up the womb and all that shit, and she's fucking rebuilding.
So they are repopulating.
Yeah, why they've not sent these people is beyond me. But
because they supposedly got everybody off Earth.
Well,
or they got all the white people off Earth.
Right. So there's 2 points I'd like to get across about this scene. The one is more pure speculation. he died in the Tesseract, or leaving the Tesseract. He's entered the whole thing. The way the space station is constructed is like a big O. It's like, if you ever played Halo, I think it kind of looks like a halo.
There's like just a steep slope.
It's like a big round thing, and it's with a big light at the end of this tunnel. He wakes up in a place named after him with his favorite sport going on in the background. Dr. Mann says, what's the last thing you see before you die? Whereas usually your children. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what he sees there. They don't pay any attention to him. He's a ghost for all intents and purposes. Yeah, it's just this place, and there's a baseball game. There's all the shit he loves. There's beer, he's and airplanes that he could steal and fly away with or whatever. And Anne Hathaway is just doing her thing all alone on the rock, when theoretically humanity could go there at any moment and join her and be friendly with her. It hasn't.
I think she's terraforming it.
I think she is too, but you'd think they'd send her a friend.
She was definitely alone.
Yeah.
I thought she was with Edmund.
Edmund, she set up a shrine for him. He died.
I thought she was with other people who were helping her.
I don't think so.
So she's
she looks
just
pretty
terraforming
alone.
all by. So she's doing the Martian thing.
She's doing the Martian thing.
That sucks.
But the other, if you take it as he survived and that this colony exists and the gravitational equation worked, they're able to lift this thing up. This American space mission, where they didn't talk to any other countries or send anyone else from any other countries to any of these planets or help with anything else. This is an extension of American imperialism and to the skies, leaving behind the rest of the world to just like burn, starve, run out of oxygen, and just like have a white Anglo-Saxon world in the sky. I don't know. It's kind of absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not acknowledged at all. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's pretty fucking weird.
They in fact kill the only non-white character in this movie.
Yeah.
He dies in the service of getting all these white people to space.
Yeah. I don't know. It's really strange.
And he is separated from them. Like, he, throughout this movie, never has a close relationship with any of them.
No.
And then spends 23 years in solitude.
Yeah. He's the oddballiest nerd of them all.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's actually one of my favorite characters in this, though, because he seems so sweet.
Yeah, he seems like a very nice guy.
I don't think his character got the treatment he deserved.
No, probably not. But yeah, I don't know. It's like it's this weird. The whole premise is like the Earth is dying. Fuck the Earth. We're fucking explorers. Let's take what matters, which is white folks and nothing else, and leave it behind.
They didn't even bring dogs with them.
They must have brought dogs. That would be truly strange. White people love dogs.
Mm-hmm. Everybody loves dogs.
Yeah. I don't know. I like watching Interstellar. I think it's fun and it's entertaining, but holy shit.
It's pretty, but it's kind of got a monstrous premise.
It's also almost 3 hours long.
Yeah, that too.
It's really long. But you have to be awake. We have to be awake in like 4.5 hours.
Yeah, and not much longer than the run of this movie.
No, I'm sorry. Not 4.5 hours. 7.5 hours. So we have a little more time than that. But we have things to do between now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It's been nice talking to you.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah. I think we actually are going to have another one next week. I'm gonna try and get back on like a weekly thing,
yeah,
more or less. I think we could do it.
I think we can do it.
cool movie lined up for next week. And if you like this and you don't subscribe to SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/The Conquest of Popcorn. Follow us on Twitter at popcorn_pod.
Woo, you did it.
I did it. Like us on, or rate us and talk about us. Say nice things on iTunes. I'm at Alberto Army.
I'm at Pinko_snob.
And I have one very last shout out. If you're in the Philly area and you're listening, I'm gonna do some posts about
support the Vaughn 17.
The Vaughn 17 trial.
Or the Smyrna 17, also known as.
Yeah, about this trial that's going to be coming up. We could use your help on this coming Monday at 8 a.m. At the State Courthouse in Wilmington, Delaware. Deets on my page, and
there will be information on the Food Not Balance page too, which is at FNB Wilmington.
Yeah, and the episode notes here. Anyways, thanks for that. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye, guys.